My name is Melissa Benoit, and I'm a high school English teacher in Allegan, Michigan. As part of my graduate classes at Michigan State University, I had to create a wicked problem project. The project was designed so I had to choose a problem I've been struggling with, try and solve it with technology, and analyze my results. The first part of the project was to sit down and think about something that I have been struggling with in my classroom. One problem that's been a huge inconvenience and a major setback is the fact that my students do not have U drives or a place to save their work. We recently switched over to a new server and student accounts have not been created. They can log into the computer to use the internet and type papers, but there's no way for them to save and re-access work they complete. It's become extremely frustrating, especially in an English classroom where students are constantly writing and need to type their finished products. There is no way for them to edit and revise their work, which is an essential part of the Common Core standards, without retyping the whole thing. I've tried using flash drives, but students still struggle to save it correctly, and they often don't have the right version saved on it. Some students have also tried to save it to the desktop, but then any other student who logs into that computer has access to the file. So I needed to come up with a solution that allowed them to save, but also still do projects and essays. I specifically wanted to focus on their upcoming The Great Gatsby project. I wanted to differentiate instruction and give students multiple ways to show their understanding of the novel. Since students were also frustrated with the lack of U drives and ability to do work on the computers, this project was a welcome change. I created the project so students had choices and could pick the type of activity they felt comfortable with. That way, they still will hopefully enjoy it and become more invested in the project. I didn't teach students about any of the technologies except Google Docs. Instead, I just gave them a chance to work hands-on with the tools. Since they were using The Great Gatsby, which we read in class, students knew what was going in and were able to play around with the different technologies. I decided to start by implementing Google Docs. Google Drive has become a place students can save various types of files. I've been working with this tool with my students, and since they have to share it with me, I have gotten more essays. It also has cut down on the excuses of, I've left it at home, or it didn't save correctly. I also have less problems with compatibility, like if a student has Word 2010 at home, and we only have Word 2007. There were other parts of the project where students needed to use technology tools like Audacity, Mixbook, Publisher, and Movie Maker. Audacity allows students to record and edit a podcast. It also allows them to save files as an MP3 and then save it to Google Drive and share it with me. Mixbook allows students to create scrapbook-like presentations. By using Mixbook, they can save the project right to the web. They can add me as a collaborator, and I have instant access to their project. By using these online tools, students still got to work creatively with the novel we read, but it didn't have the added stress of nowhere to save. I created an Edmodo site to help students. Edmodo is a site that allows students to collaborate and share comments. It has the look of Facebook so students find it easy to use. It gives students a chance to respond to posts and collaborate together. Students can also post comments and see teacher notes and assignments. It is a good place for students to submit things and also get more information about class. I created an Edmodo account so students could get announcements from me and share their progress along the way. They could also chat with each other for help or questions. They liked visiting the site and were able to see notes from me and also post anything that they learned while working on the project. The pedagogical tool TPAC helped guide much of my planning for this project. Since it was a project-based assignment and I was incorporating tools that differentiated learning and made the content applicable, students were much more willing to embrace it. Using cloud technology allowed them to not have to send and save multiple drafts. Another perk of using cloud technology is that students can easily edit their content. It's often a challenge to get students to revisit their work and revise it. If I have students work on things by hand and save and can only access it from a set place, they rarely go back and make changes. If they can view their work on multiple devices and their work updates instantly, they are more likely to complete it and do a better job editing. I wanted to make sure that even though students were working largely with technology, that they were also able to work with the novel and show that they've gotten a thorough understanding of the story. They are able to look up credible sources and other information if they needed it to complement their project. Students had to evaluate what tool would work best and then find ways to relate it to the novel. They had to work through the process of learning a new tool, which teaches them critical thinking skills. This forced them to analyze the novel in a new way. Students put in more time and effort because they felt their work was validated. Their finished projects required a high level of analysis, interpretation, and real-life application. Since they were able to use tools they felt relevant to them, they worked much more efficiently and authentically. Because of the solution, students were able to complete the project in a meaningful way. Instead of making them do the project by hand, they were able to complete the project using technology. The technology allows students to feel they're creating something real, like a movie, scrapbook, or podcast, which they can then use in other aspects of their lives. My wicked problem project did go according to plan. I had some minor setbacks, but overall my goal was met. I was looking for a way for students to save their work without having any type of U drive or hard place to save. Almost all of the projects were tried out by multiple students. There were some technological issues like Internet Explorer not working correctly and the correct version of Flash not being installed, which both prevented Google Docs and Mixbook from opening. However, after we worked through these issues by having an IT person update Flash on all the computers and installing Google Chrome, the process worked fairly well. I had to be flexible as all these issues came up and also more laid back about due dates so students had time to work. As the project wrapped up, I felt as if it had gone well for the first time. The options I presented seemed to be viable and provide students with realistic options. I felt students were more apt to embrace the project because it felt authentic. I gave a student survey at the end to find out how they felt about the technology component and received feedback from about 30 students. I felt like it worked well, but I could only really know if I heard it from them. According to the survey, 93% of students said Google Docs was easy to set up and use. 83% said the process of using their online technology in all cases was successful. When asked if they would use Google Docs and their online technology again, 90% of the students said they would. When I asked if they would like to see the technology again in other projects, I got positive answers. Emily from my first hour felt strongly and stated, yes, it was fun. Rose felt it was beneficial for future technology interactions and said, I enjoyed it. We got to use real tools that we might have to use in college and how classes would be similar to that. The feedback gave me concrete evidence that the process worked well. Not only did students find it effective, but it met my project goal of having students complete a project without a U drive. One of the biggest lessons I learned was that it's okay for students to know more about the technology than I did. I had so many students not want to try a new tool because they didn't know how to use it. I had to learn them to let them be a little frustrated sometimes and work through the process or have another student show them how to do it. The next biggest lesson I learned was that technology fails. Several days in the lab, computers wouldn't open Google Docs or wouldn't load pictures on Mixbook. Students would be frustrated and would be sitting around with nothing to do. I needed to be flexible and patient and remember it wasn't their fault. Finally, it was important to have somewhere to go like Edmodo so students felt supported when working on their project. It gave them a space to ask questions, get feedback, and help others. They felt like their skills were being validated and that they weren't an island trying to complete this project. I just had to be careful to monitor it so students were only using it for class-related topics. One thing I would do next time is have a way for students to title their files. It became a challenge to stay organized when I was getting so many files shared with me. Titling them with their last name and project name would have made my life a lot easier. My project was a success, and with some small adaptations, I would definitely do it again. With 93% of the students saying it would be worth doing again, it sounds like they enjoyed it as well. 25 students said they felt Google Docs was a logical choice for not having a U drive. Even after all the work of doing the project and completing the class without a U drive, 83% of students felt the project was beneficial. I'm glad I met my students where they were, helped them effectively complete assignments, all while accomplishing my goal of finding a way for them to successfully save their work.